The South Bank, with its worldwide reputation for pioneering in the arts, introduces a new kind of art form, but one definitely more suited to the outside rather than in. They call it skateboarding, and it's the nation's fastest growing craze amongst the youngsters. A kind of cross between surf riding and roller skating.
Spoke my name, bringing so much joy to a lonely boy. Your love is
South Bank is the world's oldest surviving continually skated space. It is literally the original street spot, so this is known as the birthplace of British skateboarding. It's right in the middle of the city. We're in SE1, right on the river, right in the middle of everything, unlike a lot of skate parks where you're pushed to the side and contained. Skateboarders took this space over and reappropriated it in the 70s. They found it wasn't designed for skateboarding, but they saw that it was perfect for it, and it happened to have the perfect topography to facilitate the evolution of skateboarding in this country. It was designed by a group of radical architects called Archigram, who were working for the GLC when they were designing the Hayward Gallery. This whole area was built as a legacy for the Festival of Britain. It's to do with looking to the future, peacetime, new technologies, new ways of life, and was essentially a space for the people.
I moved to London kind of around 85, 86 and had no money, nothing to do really, so couldn't fund anything. So I used to spend a lot of time skateboarding down at the South Bank. It's one of the iconic spots for skateboarders. I'd seen it in the magazines. It ended up being a home from home. When I started skateboarding in my hometown in Nottingham, South Bank was the place that was in all the magazines. All my heroes I would see skateboarding there. It was iconic. It's one of those places where everybody in skateboarding in the UK, particularly in the 70s, knew. So it was the first place I'd want to go, and I knew I'd find other skaters. If you go back to the 70s and 80s, there was very few other places where you could skate in London safely. You know, there was only one or two skate parks, and they were pretty crappy. They were badly designed. They were built quickly. People were just trying to get quick money out of it. There's a history and a heritage of skateboarding there that goes right back several generations of skaters now.
The history of it is very important because it shapes what it is today. People even travel to England to skate South Bank. It's an iconic spot. It also has a variety of what you want to skate as well. It's also respected by other people, and the fact that you're there, you're kind of experiencing a moment of history 24/7.
You'd have people throwing things at you and trying to get you out of the way. You'd have people angry that you were there, and you'd have other people that would just stop and marvel at the things that was going on. So you get this whole mixed set of reactions from people, and you never know what that reaction's gonna be.
In 1986, the GLC was disbanded because of the Thatcher regime and everything that was going on, and at that point this whole site was privatised, and the South Bank Centre Limited was created. From that point onwards, the oppression of skateboarding began. It was seen as antisocial, xenophobic, and the people that own the site, the South Bank Centre, have been using numerous measures to try and eradicate skateboarding on the site, from turning the lights off, from cutting holes in the floor, from sending security guards down, from scattering stones on the floor. They've cut off so much of the space over the years, and then in the noughties they continued to cut it off until we had the space nearly as what you see now.
It's been under threat It was like every 3 or 4 years there was a threat to the South Bank. It was either because the management of the South Bank Arts Centre, they also went through phases of loving the skaters, hating the skaters. You know, we weren't even allowed in there to buy coffee or ice cream or food. Carrying a skateboard, they would call the police during the 80s. So there was always this tension about the South Bank and about the skating. So you always felt it was going to get destroyed at some point.
In 2013, they announced that they would be redeveloping the South Bank site as part of a £120 million redevelopment. But as part of funding that, they needed to infill the Undercroft with retail units. That was one line in a small planning application that just got put up and posted on a lamppost over there with no warning or consultation to the community here.
To community as well, and that's kind of like shutting down a community, and it means a lot to some people. It means a lot to me, and if it were to actually be closed down, that's like a big part of skateboarding, which is a big part of my life being kind of, you know, thrown away, I guess.
We formed Long Live South Bank in response to that and spent a year and a half of extremely hard campaigning against a very corrupt planning system. We very quickly realised that we had to align ourselves with the public. At that time, skateboarding was perceived as being this kind of introvert, outcast activity. It wasn't really understood. And us as the skaters who've always been here in spite of society felt quite sort of vulnerable and didn't know how the general public felt about us. What was amazing is that once we started the campaign and started a petition and started our organisation and started getting members, we had a table down here and we were talking to people all day, every day. And it was really amazing to see how much people love this place and how much they get out of it. The South Bank Centre literally started a PR campaign to oppose us, attacking us, calling us angry teenagers. They of course have the ear of the Evening Standard and various other media outlets that are aligned with the bigger agendas of the South Bank Employers Group. So what we did is we started using social media and utilised YouTube and all these newer digital mechanisms for communication. And we basically ran Long Live South Bank like an anti-brand. And as part of that, we started making sort of video content that was sort of reporting what was going on. And as the campaign got more complex and more deep, I made a film called The Bigger Picture, which was essentially condensing the whole argument into a 15-minute documentary for those with short attention spans. And that had the most impact. It got about just under 80,000 views overnight and essentially convinced the Mayor's office to finally get off the fence. We were the largest objection to a planning application in UK history twice. Since then, we've made £1 million in 1 year to unlock the Undercroft, and we took down the hoarding, which was put up without consultation, and literally restored the small banks. We literally rebuilt the original topography as it was. First time in global history that a skate spot has been restored in that way.
If you look at the last 10 years and Save the South Bank and the Undercroft, as it started to get called, not just the general public, but also the politicians and the London authorities, there was a mindset change, and it's seen as creativity and something that's good these days. So yes, I think the South Bank movement that went on over the last 10 years, that's had a big effect on the changes.
The South Bank campaign itself was a massive chance to re-educate the general populace who've been misinformed by media conditioning and the corporate spin on what skateboarding is. For me personally, just to see the kids grow up here, like there were young kids skating during our campaign to save it, who are now full-grown men, some of them pursuing careers within skateboarding, and yet all of them are extremely switched on, progressive, politically active individuals.
There's people I was skateboarding with there in the 1980s that I still have a lot of connection with today. Even though I live in Hong Kong today, we formed a bond. We're a bunch of boring old guys that just talk about skateboarding down there in the 70s and 80s. And yeah, it was a culture, and it continues to be today.
South Bank has kind of been like a place of my progression, and in a sense it symbolises that, because I've learned a lot at that place.
There are classic spots around the world that all kind of skaters know that have gone away, and saving the South Bank was important.
It has also opened up the space to more and more girls coming skateboarding. Essentially, it has broken down what this would be, which is a barrier between the skaters and the pedestrians, and it sort of showed that we're not separate.
There's still more to open up. So it's still not the full space it was that I got to enjoy in the 1980s. They are talking about trying to expand and take it expands further back, right back to the roads. And I would like to see that fully opened up.
I see it as like the mother's womb. This is the temple, like this is the origin, this is the shelter.
South Bank has really defined what skateboarding in England means.
An iconic legend of a park.
I must go to you. You have to come here if you're in London.
Iconic spot.
Without the South Bank, my life would be very different. Without skateboarding, my life would be very different. I just don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing. It was an outlet for me and allowed me to do so many other things. So yeah, it's home.